bass cocaine is what I'm calling it. I mean, it is. It's some kind of powdered substance. We need to test it, dude.
Yeah.
Because it could be. They put coffee in the Strike King thing, right?
Right.
And the bass went nuts.
Right. They did.
Is there fentanyl in? I don't know.
I got flex.
What I want to know is why we're still wearing headsets when we're all sitting close to each other.
Do we not need them?
It's
Well,
for
I mean,
him.
you got to.
But why? Well, I mean, think about it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you sound fine.
Doesn't
Yeah.
it sound cool though when you put it on?
It does kind of. I kind of feel
sounds like
important.
important.
He feels important.
It feels like you're in a real studio.
It really does.
This is a real studio.
Yeah.
I think we sound a lot better though. The few
Yeah.
I watched. I did watch it. I do actually watch it.
You might get hot in that jacket. Pretty warm in here.
Yeah, it is pretty warm.
God, you must get bored.
Yeah, I do. I do a lot of driving.
Yeah, he does a lot of driving.
So
Hey, we talked about you on the last
That's when
podcast.
I think that's when I saw
Yeah.
it. I think someone tagged me in it. Or
You were
something.
scared we said something?
Yeah, I was
weren't
like,
you?
oh, what'd they say about me now?
It was all good stuff.
Yeah,
I
no, it
think
was good stuff.
Yeah,
It's
it
Iron
was.
Man. We
Canterbury
talked about
called,
the
yeah,
Iron
they
Man.
called you the Iron Man.
The Iron Man of fishing.
Yeah.
So you left St. Clair, and then you've been on the road the whole time. Like just went
Yeah,
like
I-
full circle.
Yeah, I went home for like baby shower.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went home.
Yours?
For, my kids. I don't even know.
I don't even know.
I don't know. I'm exhausted. My
What are your
kids having
kids?
one of my kids is having another kid.
I got you.
Yeah,
Be your grandkid. You be a grandpa.
That means
I'm already a grandpa.
You already are
Oh.
grandpa?
Yep.
He's Peepaw. What do they call you?
John Cox.
hey, that you'll never age.
Big Daddy Cox?
You'll never.
That's what they. I don't know why they have to say both my first. And
That's
last name,
hilarious.
but that's what they call me.
Not,
Really?
not
Yeah.
Papa.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I like Papa Cox.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about
Papa
Yeah.
Cox.
Papa Cox?
Papa Cox.
Papa Cox. Hey, Papa Cox. So your grandkids call you John Cox,
Well, one grandkid does.
but your full name.
Yeah,
John Cox.
I'm not sure why.
But you know what's funny? Like, I mean, honestly, my great grandmother,
That's what he's
Larabelle,
heard his whole life on
and
stage.
my grandmother Mary, I didn't call them grandma or anything like. I called them Larabelle, which
Yeah.
was my great grandmother's name, Mary. Grandma
Really?
Mary. Yeah.
It's funny because my grandfather on my dad's side, we called him. He was Robert Jackson Airy Sr., but we called him Bob. Because I'm serious. It was the
It
first,
was easier.
It was the first thing
What
that
was
came.
it?
It was the first
That
word
was
that
so
came.
aristocratic sounding,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh, Robert Trent Strode the Third. We just call him Bob.
Well, my older brother was the first grandkid, and the first word that came out of his mouth was Bob.
Bob.
And every grandkid after that called him Bob.
I
His
like
whole
it.
life.
I like
Oh,
it.
my gosh.
Bob is short for Robert. Y'all do know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. So
you
that's
know
it. I wonder what everybody calls it. Drop a comment. Let everybody. What do you call your grandparents? Like, let's see what those names are.
Yeah.
There'll be some interesting ones in the comments.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of like pawpaws and mimis and stuff
Yes.
like that. But
We have Meemaw and Mimi, Peepaw and Grandpa.
Dixie says she's gonna be a mama.
Mama.
Gram.
She'll get mad because she don't want to be a mama. Her mother's mama.
She's gonna be Dixie. That's what she's
Dee Dee.
gonna be.
Dee Dee.
That'd be good. Well, dude, we got John Cox in the house. How about that? Dude,
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Thanks
Awesome.
for inviting me over.
I'm next to royalty
Oh,
right
yeah.
now.
No, shoot.
Hey,
On this
how many
side of
times?
me.
How many times have you seen the Roll Tide stuff? Look at this Alabama
I'm
hat,
telling
Alabama
you.
shirt.
So-
He's all in.
well,
I didn't even
listen,
recognize him when he came up to me.
I'm just talking about
I
the
even got-
outfit.
I know,
Yeah.
but I've got my shirt tucked in. This is
Yeah.
how you looking at Tuscaloosa. You got to wear.
No, that's the frat boys.
That's
Well,
like
that's
at
what
the,
I was hanging out with.
Yeah,
Oh, y'all went to frat parties and stuff this week. I see.
turn your collar up and you'll be ready to go.
Pop the collar.
Yep.
No.
Did y'all,
So I
y'all
think-
hang out at the KA house?
No, we did not. But Rush Week's going on this week. But we had a ball. I love Tuscaloosa. Just to clarify, I am an Oklahoma Sooner fan. Okay, not going anywhere on that, but I do support.
Who are you going to
Alabama.
root for next year
You
when we
say
play them?
that wearing all that stuff.
I'm supporting my daughter. And I like Alabama.
This is pretty awesome. Hillary made the fishing team at Alabama. She's moved to Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
She's in the dorms that Taylor stayed in, but right now, and it's going to be an exciting time for his life, keeping up with that college fishing platform.
It's gonna be fun. She's got a boat up there, so she'll be fishing
Wow.
tournaments and doing all kind of stuff. And you know, it's funny. We're,
A boat your freshman year in college?
Well, so we did, I know. But you know what was neat? So she was real nervous about us leaving. And I was nervous about us leaving, and the whole goodbyes and the whole she's leaving the nest thing. And every time I try to talk to her about anything, she said, "I don't want to talk about it. Don't want to talk about it." And we're sitting there messing with the boat, getting the boat all situated the other day, putting it in the storage unit. And I said, "I bet it gives you a little peace and comfort knowing that boat's here, doesn't it?" She said, "That's like my security blanket. Having that boat there, knowing that I can get in the boat, no matter how tough the day is or what's going on, I can get in the boat and go fishing and kind of get back to my roots." And so it's kind of her security blanket there, being away from home. So I thought that was cool to have that Skeeter up there for her and all that. And
No, for sure.
yeah, good deal.
As long as
So
she
that's
goes
cool.
in the boat, not
I would have
when
probably.
she has
I would have
classes
probably.
at the same time.
I probably would have
That was my
graduated.
problem.
Yeah.
I probably would have graduated Alabama. I was there until I got my boat there, and that sort of went downhill. We didn't have a fishing team back then, and I wanted to go fishing.
I got my boat. I had an 18-foot Astro in college, and I used that, and it was like paper thin and had a 175
Was it an Astro?
Merc EFI on it. Yeah, it
Astro
was
Blast or an Astro?
It was an Astro. It was
Yeah.
called
I remember those.
1850 something X model.
Yeah.
Super lightweight. You drive
Go
it. I'm dead serious. This thing would run 70 mile an hour, and you had to
would.
drive it like a race
It would
car.
fly,
dude.
but man, when you hit a wave,
You would die.
Oh my gosh! I mean,
You
it
would die.
just.
Oh,
I
gosh.
mean,
It was like putting a 250 on the back of that right there.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
go down
Yeah.
Champlain.
I had a Venture Ansco back in the day with a Mariner on it, and then it had like a what was OMC, the Evinrude
Yeah,
trolling
yeah, yeah.
motors. The good
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
those were good
With
trolling
the
motors back in the
offset
day.
shaft?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
exactly what I had on that Astro.
Back in the day, those were good ones.
I had an Astro Glass,
Yeah.
and it was a 17-foot Astro Glass with a 140
come on.
GT Johnson that had the little racing
The
flags
white
on
one?
it. The
Wow.
white-
Yeah, I remember that one.
140.
I had a red and silver one, and it had a 70
Astro Glass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it had a
Mine was
75
red.
Evinrude on it.
Mine was red.
When
too.
did you get rid of yours?
Yeah. It's hilarious.
Was this were all these y'all's first boats, or
Yeah.
y'all
Yeah.
had like John boats
Oh,
and stuff before?
I had
Yeah,
a John
John
boat.
boats.
That was
Yeah,
my
yeah.
first
Yeah.
fiberglass.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you about my first actual bass boat. It was y'all remember the bass tracker? Obviously, been around since the 70s. They had a Tadpole 12.
Yeah.
Y'all are all the same
Oh, yeah.
age.
The plastic one. Right?
No, that
No.
was the Bantam or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember that one too. Yeah, this was a Tadpole. It was called the Tadpole. It was a flat bottom John boat, and I got this boat, saved up money to buy the hull, and I got a little bitty used 5 horsepower for Christmas one year. I put it on the back. It was a Force by
Yeah.
Mercury. I think
Right.
it's by
Oh,
Mercury.
yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
A tiller steer.
Yeah.
And it was like a barge. It would just push water. It wouldn't
Yeah.
like actually plane out or anything. And I wanted to be like the bass fisherman I was watching on TNN back then.
Yeah.
So bad that I needed a front deck. But I had this little old tiller steer hand-controlled trolling motor. It was like a 30-pound thrust that you buy at Walmart. I had saved some money and bought one of those. And Dad helped me build a deck,
Oh yeah.
plywood deck with carpet, like the old carpet that you see at the old putt-putts.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like that,
Oh,
the
yeah.
green
Indoor,
guy,
outdoor, yeah.
and put it on the front deck. And we bolted that thing to the top of the John boat, which you can imagine how stable that was when
Oh,
you
yeah.
stood on, when you got on. And I had a seat mounted on it,
Yeah.
like a butt seat that was about this high off of it. And then I had the trolling motor mounted on a block, because I wanted to be a bass fisherman.
Right.
And I said, the trolling motor has to be on the
Right.
front of the boat, right? And it was mounted on a block of wood that he had mounted on the front of that deck. But it was a tiller steer, so when it was down in the water, I had to go in reverse to go forward.
Yeah.
And forward to go backwards. So I only had 3 speeds to go forward and 5 speeds to go backwards. So, and that was my first bass boat.
Wow.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
legit
awesome.
bass boat. I would leave. I'd have to put my life jacket on, but I'd get at the dock. The lake we lived on was only about 2,000 acres, Moss Lake. And I'd get in it, and it would take me like 30 minutes to go all the way to the other end of the lake. It'd come out, and I'd fished for hours and hours every day out of that thing.
That's cool. That's and you win
That-
tournaments on that lake still, don't you? Don't you and Thrift fish that lake?
Well, we don't fish it much now. We fished a few last year. I've only fished one this year, but they still have the
Moss Lake champs.
The Thursday nighters that they ran when I was 15 years old, they still run them today.
That's funny.
Anglers
You
Choice
said
Marine actually
take you
took them
30
over.
minutes to get across the lake.
All the way to the other end
Yeah.
of the lake. Yeah.
They, Clint Brown
Yeah.
fished with us and stuff. They were down there at, I think it's Lake Jackson or something in Florida. One of those lakes got those giants and
Yeah.
fishing and little old tiller steer motors, and it was so foggy. One morning, his dad, they're going to beat everybody across the lake. Big lily pad field over there where they're catching all these big ones off the bends. So they left before daylight, going to beat everybody over there. We got back there, and Clint was holding that light, and it's foggy. You couldn't see like 5 foot, and they were stumped. He's
Oh, no.
man for like 15 minutes, and he's like, "Dad, we ought to be there. we ought to be there, dude. And he's like, I don't know. And he knocked it out of gear, and it went like this. They still had it tied to the pier. They ain't even moved. Like 30 minutes.
What?
They were tied to the dock.
How is that possible? Were they sober?
Yeah, they were sober.
We should be here by now.
I would never ever tell
They were just
anybody that
island, you know,
story.
for a long time. He was like, golly, it's like you couldn't see nothing. He
Everything
said.
looks the same.
And when he put it in neutral, it went back like this.
That's funny.
That's the best. That's the best one I've heard.
If that's true, that's got to be the best thing I've ever heard.
That was good.
That's funny. So St. Clair was pretty good to us.
To y'all?
Except, yeah. You,
To y'all?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't go.
Did you get a
anywhere.
check?
Mm-mm.
So we only,
I
yeah.
missed about 10 ounces. Though.
Wasn't that crazy?
Yeah,
Dude, I've
I mean,
had some, and I like fishing there. I've had some really good tournaments over the years. But it's a funny lake. Like, it's not like you can just plan on you're going to go out and catch them. I mean,
Right.
you gotta. I think a lot of luck goes into St. Clair.
Right.
I mean, I love fishing there. I've caught them. I mean, I've had really good tournaments. But good gracious.
So here's a question. It's like, is St. Clair, even though I like going there, and I hope we go there more times, but is St. Clair considered a good tournament lake? Is it a good tournament lake? You know, like what's your thought on that? Is it a good tournament lake? Is it not a good tournament lake?
Yeah.
You know, like
It is.
I mean, I love fishing it.
I love fishing it too.
But it is like
A lot of luck.
My second day, I probably caught the bit. Like if you just looked at them,
Right.
It was like those 5 smallmouth I caught were the biggest 5 I've ever caught. But they only weighed 21 3/4.
Right.
They're super
Right.
long.
Super skinny. I mean,
Yeah.
big
Big
heads.
heads.
they
on
were
them.
all skinny this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And except where everybody was in Anchor Bay, I guess those.
Those were a little thicker.
Those were eating
Everybody.
something.
Even
Everybody.
those weren't fat.
Yeah, no, yeah.
They were just normal.
bass.
Right.
Those bass were
I
on
stopped.
cocaine, John.
I fished in Canada the first day, and I
So
ran
that's
across the
what I
lake,
heard.
stopped in Anchor Bay. I had it's on the show. I had
Yeah.
7 or 8 minutes.
Right.
My last, I should have already been in, but my last cast, I catch like a 4.5, and he's like that big around. I said, good.
Wow.
I said, dude, I'll just start out here tomorrow.
Yeah.
I started out there, and there's boats, and then there's more boats, and then there's more boats stopping. I said, what is it? Well, everybody started catching. I said, oh, gosh.
Yeah.
This is where they were all, I didn't have a
Yeah.
clue that's where it was going
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, I think for me, like the reason I brought that question up, it's like, for example, we're at Champlain right now, and Champlain I think is a great tournament lake because you got
For sure.
an amazing amount of diversity. It's either it could be one with all largemouth, it could be one with all smallmouth, it could be one mixed bag.
It could be
win
one
in
30
shallow
miles
grass.
up here or 70 miles
Yeah,
down
it could
there.
be 40 feet of water, shallow, whatever. You know, there's some diversity to it. And even St. Lawrence, there's some diversity to that. You can be out in the lake, you can be doing up shallow. You know, there's largemouth there as well. But St. Clair, it's like largemouth are not a player ever, and they're not ever really going to be. And number two, there's no visual contours. The grass moves. It's never in the same place. So it's a little bit like where Joey won the tournament, hundreds of boats fished around where he caught them, right? Maybe no one went right through where he caught them, but maybe they did and just didn't get lucky and catch that 5-pounder, but caught 2.5s like you were catching every other cast out there. But yet he settles in and wins the tournament there. Not that I don't want to say it was lucky, but in a way it's a little lucky because it's like, why were those fish there? You know, did he get lucky and just find a 100-yard stretch of thicker grass or a patch of perch? Or did he just, you know, what happened? You know, because no one else caught him over there.
So to your point, over the years, like I remember Dylan Hayes, Chad Grigsby, Jason Christie said this also. That they admitted it was luck that I found these places. Like I was out there drifting, I was just fishing, you know, isolated patches of grass, and then I stumbled across a school that was a little bit bigger than the rest of them.
Yeah.
You know, and it because St. Clair is such a big, featureless, round bowl of sand where you go 2 miles to get a 6-inch depth change. You know, like it's I think what you were kind of hinting at from a viewership standpoint, from a fan standpoint, you've got to have diversity in a tournament to make it more attractive to the fans.
Right.
Because if everybody's looking at John, Scott, Matt,
All doing the same thing
all day long, looking at. I mean, it is cool when they can incorporate the forward-facing sonar image on the live screen, and people get to see your. Like that's cool.
Yeah,
to engage people a little bit more. But if it's super repetitive across the board, I mean, it gets a little old to watch.
Yeah,
As far as viewership in fishing, that has went downhill a lot. As far as
Because
not
of
the
that.
viewership, but because of that.
yeah, I agree.
Retainment. It's retainment, not viewership. The viewers are there. It's just
I'm not-
they're not
that's what I'm-
retained as much when it's
That's
when
exactly
all
right.
top 10 are looking at their graph, you might not retain them as much. Now here, there's going to be half the guys are going to catch them forward face sonar. The other half are going to catch them up shallow doing normal stuff. So the people are retained watching this show because it's like in one minute they're watching it forward face, and the next minute they're watching John whack them on a frog in the grass. You know, so there's a lot going on. But
Hopefully.
with St. Clair, it was like everyone in the top 10 literally was fishing the same exact 3 or 4 patterns, same baits, same exact thing. And 9 of them were basically in the same area within sight of each other.
I don't know about the same baits now.
Well, they were. Who was throwing something different?
Well,
some people had like some bass cocaine or something on there.
That's another conversation.
as far as drop shots,
What is this
like
stuff
the drop
now?
shot was the dominant technique.
Yes,
across
the
the
technique was definitely.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, I saw. Is Zaldane okay? By the way, because I saw something the other day. Him and Taku.
They may be drug tasting.
They were out late, and Zaldane had some white substance of some sort that Taku brought to a party, I think, or maybe a fishing party. I don't know what was going on. There was some residue, possibly. I don't know. There's a picture, possibly. It was on the internet, so you know, I'm not spreading bad rumors here.
Oh, he posted it.
He did post it
on Instagram.
Yes. No, all kidding aside, that's a good thing that Taku's doing some secret sauce, dude. He's got bass cocaine, is what I'm calling it. I mean, it is. It's some kind of powdered substance. We need to test it, dude, because it could be. I mean, they put coffee in the Strike King thing, right?
Right.
And the bass went nuts.
Right. They did.
Is there fentanyl in? I don't know. It's a question. We might need to check this out.
He gets enough in that area, enough of that sauce in that area. They get the munchies and they start eating good.
He is always real happy, isn't he? He's always super happy.
He's always,
and he's got his high pitched voice. You know, he's always excited. And, yeah. He's hopped up.
That scent, it's something special that he's doing. Do you know what it is?
You're
big into scent.
I have no idea. I know, but I did see that, and I don't know, but. You know.
I mean, you've had scent. You had your scent. What was your scent called?
We had the Cox juice.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean
that's right.
It's good stuff. You know?
Yes, that guy was making it in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Is he still making it?
I don't know. He might be.
That was good stuff.
Yeah,
dude.
it was good stuff. You know, it helped the worms float and stuff. So.
Now you're a Berkeley guy, right?
Yeah.
All right. So Joey said something kind of cool that I heard. Said he's putting these flatworms in the gulp buckets and juice to let them swell up a little bit and give them a little bigger profile.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, maybe
I did that actually,
but
I left them.
Oh, my roommate did it. He didn't.
Well, I didn't do it for this tournament, but I did it. I did it last year.
I didn't know anything about it.
I did it last year, and I did it. But then the ones that I left in there for like months, and when I got home,
they got like this big.
They were giant. They looked like this microphone.
He took them out tuna fishing.
Yeah.
Well, that was interesting to hear him say that though. And I mean, we all know baits swell up, like when you leave them in the water.
Well, it's the salt. It's the salt expands.
Yeah, and so that's interesting to think about that he used it to his advantage. Because I mean, the Max Scent stuff's already got a lot of.
But you've got Taku's special sauce, which is something that he makes, and then you've got the Max Scent stuff that's hot right now. The bait fuel.
Bait fuel's been hot,
which has been a big deal. I've been doing the bait pop, which is awesome. It's unique. It's got the fish formula in it, which is great. The original fish formula. You probably remember that from back in the day.
Right.
But it also has some material in it that helps you see your bait. It enhances your sonar return on your bait. So when you put it on like a little Ned, little swim bait, you throw it out there, you're going to see it a lot better at a long, long cast. And it also has some little flakes in it called sparkle scales, which is like a color thing. Kind of makes your bait. You can customize. I can take a green pumpkin and add like copper flake to it, make a green pumpkin copper. And that's what I was doing at St. Clair. So it's kind of cool. Scent and those things, I believe, help a lot. Salt's a big deal.
I've always said that scents, flavors, whatever scents are big for smallmouth. I've said that since day one. And I use it for largemouth. I mean, all the time, but especially when they're spawning.
Yeah.
That's when I think it makes a difference. When during the spawn for largemouth, but all the time for largemouth.
And dude, you're the same way. I've had questions all the time about bait fuel, or scents in general. Do they really work? Here's the thing: like when you're doing it at our level, if it gets you one more bite, one more bite, it's worth every penny, right? And even for the recreational angler, and Scott said it best: if you come up north, like St. Clair or St. Lawrence or whatever, and you're targeting primarily smallmouth, it is a huge deal.
You better have
the
it.
stinkier it is, the more they love it or hate it, however you want to look at it.
You say that, but I mean, And I was in that category, but with bait fuel, the no scent, I mean, I really thinks it makes a difference.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it's not that stinky or nothing.
I mean, we
It's
both
like
got,
an enzyme or something. What is it?
Yeah,
Some
I mean,
kind of
it's-
special
yeah.
thing in there.
and it doesn't stink and stain, which is the two biggest things for me anyway.
Yeah,
I've got
it's
so
a-
much chartreuse.
It's a
scarlet.
water-based formula instead of oil-based, so it disperses in the water a lot better as well, too, than any other ones.
They've got it in a stick now.
Yeah,
which is
I've
awesome.
got some of that.
Like I
stick.
just keep the stick in my pocket.
Like a
Use it to
chapstick
rub-
thing?
Well, that's what the bait pop comes in a little stick. Comes in like a little chapstick.
Well, no,
thing.
this is like chapstick, like
Well, mine-
hard.
well,
Like a
okay.
sunscreen, yeah, like where you
this
just
one,
rub
this
it.
one you just squeeze a
Yeah.
little bit out. I looked at that little tube of bait pop, and I was, when I first saw it, I thought that's not gonna last long.
No.
I haven't run out of one yet, and I've been I used it
Yeah.
on every day at St. Clair.
Well, you put a little dab on your finger,
Yeah,
and
it goes a
it'll
long
cover the whole
ways.
bait.
Yeah, and it
you
stays
know?
on there good, and you start getting that flake on there. Like I was taking the green pumpkin and putting copper in it, which is smallmouth. Love that copper, and it was doing good. It was doing great. So I know it made a difference for me. So anytime you can add scent, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh
What the most important tools
Yeah.
that you've ever left at home?
What
going
is
on
the
a
most
trip?
important thing you've left at home on a fishing trip? Is that the
Or a
question?
vacation or anything? I mean,
What's the most important thing? Well, for a tournament, but the most important thing for a tournament would have to be what Matt pulled this week.
Well, I mean, the
know-
only other worst thing would be leaving your boat. at home.
no.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean, that's hard to do. Though.
my uncle, he's passed away, but they drove. This has been 20 years ago. Drove to
Y'all
Eufaula.
wait just a second. We'll tell you what that was.
It's like 4 hours ago, 5 hours ago.
It's called the
drive. He got there and he left his tackle box at home. They turned around and went back home. Like 5 hours.
they had
back
other
then.
tackle?
5 hours.
Did
Yeah,
they have
to
other tackle?
Eufaula from their house. Yeah,
Oh
it
my
was,
gosh.
This is like 20 years, or no, it's been longer than that. 30 years.
They had
ago.
some secret old inline spinner or
Oh,
something.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what did you leave at home? You only drove
well,
like 18 hours or something?
14 hours. And I was about 3.5, 4 hours away.
From home.
No, from here.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
And I was, yeah. I'd have probably turned
then
around.
it hit you.
I'd have
Yeah,
probably-
I
Like it
well,
hit you
like
hard.
when I get close to my tournament destination, wherever it may be, I'm always thinking in my mind, like, I get there, get settled in, what do I need to do tonight, go over some things in the boat, get ready for practice start in the morning, tackle, whatever. And the first thing I always do when I get to tournament is I put my graphs on my boat, because I usually travel with them in the truck for many reasons. But anyway, it hit me as soon as I thought I need to put my graphs on my boat when I get there. Hey, good job. You don't have your graphs. Not any of them.
If we could have had
None
a
of them.
camera in the truck when he realized
Absolutely.
Oh, I bet.
that, like a
Almost
GoPro on the
wrecked.
dash, it would have it has to be probably 5 minutes of unbelievable freak out.
You about wrecked?
Dude, I called everybody I knew in like 10 seconds. Like I called him first because he's my roommate,
Yeah.
and he's Lawrence,
Right.
And I was like, "Please tell me." And he's like, "I got at least one in my truck. Let me go check, and I'll call you back." And then I called before he called me back, which wasn't long. I called. I can look at my phone and just blow your mind. I called Austin Felix, Brian New, Brandon Lester, and Lester's the one that told me you
Yeah.
were Lawrence. And I was sitting there going through my. I called John
did
Cruz.
he say? Did Lester say Cox has got a whole bunch of them? He doesn't use them. So he
Yeah,
has to get
yeah.
his.
So it was somewhat similar to that, but
Yeah.
I mean I called John Cruz and he uses it. Okay, so Cobb and Lester, I called both of them and they're like, yeah, we both carry a backup graph, but neither one of them brought them to this tournament. And I'm like, oh, this is going real good
I
so
brought
far.
two.
And he ended up having two, and he thought he had one, but he had two. And then Brandon said, I'm pretty sure John has one. And I'm like, and I honestly, dude, I apologize. I'm going to say this. When he said that, I'm like, oh my God, what is John? I mean, I don't know what he has that's extra, but first of all, is it an actual graph? Is it like a flasher? Is it like a 6-inch unit that just?
Yeah.
You remember the
Yeah.
old
It's a
ones that
stick.
the little goldfish would pop up and it'd go beep 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 beep. Or you just need something that shows
What
you
is that,
that.
887 or something back in the day?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so I didn't give you enough credit. But John swung by the house to
funny.
do the podcast tonight, and he had a brand new Lawrence 12 Pro in the box, and he's going to let me borrow it along with. So I've got 3 graphs
These
to practice
guys-
tomorrow thanks to these two
You
guys.
know, we're all competitors, but people will help you out. I mean,
They've always-
last tournament I left my Tato pole that holds my camera, my mount up, my
Yeah.
GoPro.
That's
And
Matt
Matt
Herron
Heron's
makes-
got me
Matt-
another one of those.
Matt Heron makes that pole. It's
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
Tato
He got
pole?
me
Yeah.
one overnighted, so
Yeah.
I'd have it for the tournament.
That is-
if you guys want a good pole for your boat, like the people ask me all the time, what's that thing you use in the back to hold the GoPro up?
Taddo.
It's a Taddo pole.
Taddo.
Yeah.
T-A-D-D-O. Is that it? Yep.
Yeah, Taddo.
But you know that is one thing that Canterbury just mentioned that we don't talk enough about. I mean, it truly is like a brotherhood out here. Like you can call. I mean, I'd say 99% of the guys out there. There might be one or two, but I felt as long as they were Lawrence, obviously, I felt comfortable calling anybody on tour like today. And they were more, and like even Brian New, who doesn't really run Lawrence, he kept texting me and calling me back. Hey, did you find something? Hey man, I'm trying to think of somebody else that might be able to help. You know, like in Whitaker. I mean, Jake said, man, I got 4. Actually, Cobb said the same thing. He's like, I got 4 on my boat, and I'll just let you use one of those if you need to, man. I'm like, Cobb, you freaking getting ready to win the Angler of the Year title. I said, I'm not taking a graph off your boat, and I don't care if it is for practice, whatever. But Jake said the same thing. He's like, man, I could probably let you borrow one of mine off, and I'm like, and that's pretty awesome, you know. And obviously, it didn't come to that because these two boys came through for me. But
we're good.
Yeah.
My dad told a story one time where they were at a tournament. This was years ago, back in the 70s. And he took his rods in the hotel room. When we got up that next morning, drove to the lake, blasted off. He was leading the tournaments last day. Blasted off. Ran down the lake, or way wherever he was catching them. Opened his rod locker up, and it's empty.
Oh, my. That's one of my biggest fears.
Yeah. There's no rods.
Or
No
forgetting
rods.
them in the hotel room.
Yeah.
Because I take mine out.
Yeah. He has no rods.
That's hilarious.
So he has his other partner. Back then it wasn't co-anglers; it was another competitor.
Yeah.
And he borrowed one rod. The guy had said, "Here, take this one rod." So my dad took one rod out of the guy's bundle.
Really?
And fished with that one rod the whole day and won the tournament.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now that's a story.
Yeah.
He's got lots of good stories. That's
Oh,
one time we could get into that podcast. Those were about the E-step, crankbait, and all that stuff. Yeah, that's great.
All right, John, come out with it. What have you forgot?
He's forgot stuff every tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I forget stuff every day. I lost my wallet this morning. So I was like, I have no
He
credit cards.
panhandled the whole way up here.
Yeah, no.
Have you found
no
it?
license? No, it's gone. No, I stayed at
No,
a
you
really
don't.
sketchy place last night.
So hold on. Well, how
and
you,
it's gone. And but this is what happened. My kids, they always say, Dad, let me get your card when I'm running the gas station.
Right.
Luckily, one of them just threw it in the back seat, and I found it. So I have one credit
you
card.
had an active credit card
Oh
just
yeah,
laying
in the back
loose in the
seat.
truck?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
my
how I got
gosh.
gas today.
So are you okay? I mean, do you need to borrow some money or anything?
Nah,
That's
good.
funny.
Hey, as long as they don't cut that one off, I'm fine.
Okay, well, call me. I owe you anyway, so call me.
Yeah.
Call me
That's
if
bad.
they do.
Just give him your debit card and the pen.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, I don't even own a debit
Scott,
card.
Scott wasn't going to lose this at the last
really
tournament, was he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that? Me
Oh
jumping
my
in.
gosh, is that what I saw it, but I didn't know it was your phone. I thought it was your ear
No,
pod.
he jumped
It was
in
your
to get his phone.
Oh my god.
But did you watch the Spider-Man?
Oh,
leak?
I saw it.
I was like a ninja, bro.
were
What are you
really
talking
I
about?
thought it was like Kermit the Frog jump.
Yeah.
Dude, what's funny about that was when it happened, in my mind, it was like slow motion. You know, when something bad happens, it's slow motion. So in my mind, the phone, it bounced several times in the boat. It almost
didn't.
stayed
No, it
in.
didn't.
We
It
watched
bounced
the videos.
water. I looked at it for 5 seconds, deciding what I'm going to do, and then I decided to jump in until I watched the video. And
Yeah.
went,
And it was,
in the water.
14 foot deep when he got it.
Yeah, and when it was sinking in the water like this, and when I jumped
It was
in,
like a wacky rig.
the reason I jumped that way is because I didn't want to like blow the water out.
Oh, yeah,
I could
yeah.
see it sinking, so I jumped right in front
He's
of it, and
watching
I was
the phone.
underwater with my sunglasses on, like goggles, and I could see the black foam, and
Oh, my
I grabbed
gosh.
it like that.
Oh my
That was
god.
hilarious.
Climbed back in the
Jeez.
boat.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I got
So-
a video of it if you ever want to see it.
I've watched it.
Again.
I'm sure McCoy's going to play it probably right about now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of really good videos of Scott if you want to see stuff that never makes the channel.
Those are definitely after the podcast. That's a different podcast.
That's the late
actually.
night podcast.
I can't
Yeah,
wait to
that's the-
see. I can't wait to see some more videos of him this fall, in Bryant Denny.
That's gonna be fun. It's
And
gonna be
what?
fun. Football games,
Oh,
Alabama.
Bryant Denny Stadium.
It's gonna be
Come on,
fun.
man.
I didn't know that's what it was called.
Yeah, me neither.
All right, so here's another question for you.
Apologies.
Since we're talking about things that we left that are kind of important, what is an accessory on your boat, or what is something that you couldn't do without? What's the most important thing, other than the fishing rod, obviously, because you couldn't catch with bass?
Right.
But what is it? What is it? Is it a power pole? Is it your trolling motor? Is it your electronics? Is it your boat? Your engine?
It would 100% be my trolling motor. I mean, I couldn't hardly catch them with that. If it had one thing that I couldn't do with that,
Right. You know, like if it's tournament day and one of your things break on your boat, what's the nail in the coffin?
Gosh, I don't know.
You know?
I mean,
obviously your engine. But,
Yeah,
I mean,
Well, but then you can troll a motor around.
Yeah.
How many
If
tournaments
I had
have
a
been won
trolling
right at the
motor,
ramp?
I'd rather lose my
That's
engine
I mean,
than my
tournaments are
trolling
won at the
motor.
ramp. I mean, especially like
I was just
on
thinking
the
if you
bass.
had
Yeah,
something
Think about
where-
that.
Yeah.
I mean, like at
Yeah.
Sabine, everybody's all those
That's
guys could have
true.
not even used their motors. They
Yeah.
could have just trolled a motor around and won the
Right.
tournament.
Yeah.
We could have done
So-
that at the last tournament, St. Clair. It took them about 40 minutes to get out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So is it the trolling motor?
Yeah, for me it is.
might be or battery.
Or if the
I mean,
trolling motor
batteries.
went out, you could drive your big engine way to a good spot
That's-
and then drift or just like
That's
kind
what
of
I was
position the
thinking.
boat.
You move
What if the
around.
wind's not blowing?
You
problem.
can drive and then shut it off, cast and drive.
Have you ever had to do that?
I kind of do that already.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like putting it in. I'll just shut it off and make a couple casts and keep going.
You do practice the fastest I've ever seen anybody. Like I've roomed with him a few times.
He can
I'll
smell
see.
them.
I'll go to like way down the south in the lake, and I'll see him launching there that morning, and I'll see him zipping around the lake a little bit, and then later on, I'll talk to him, and I'm like, "Where are you?" And he'll 40 miles north up some creek now, like all the way on the other side of the lake, and then later that day he's back on the other back where he started.
I have a hard time decision making in practice. So
Yeah.
I like, something kicks in.
You like that little shiny
Yeah,
thing.
and I'm
You like Nemo.
Yeah, I'm going to go load
Yeah.
up.
You know, we talked during
Yeah.
practice, and Matt, I mean, like, we've been rooming together for a while now, but man, it used to be impressive. Like, put in at 6, 7:15, he'll call, or 7:30, he'll call. We'll talk. He said, "Man, you caught any?" I said, "I got a bite, one bite on top water." He said, "I've caught 9 on this, and 3 on a Carolina rig, and 2 on a crankbait, and
Yeah,
done fished 3 creeks." He's
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
We put in at Gunner's one. He's already been to Honeycomb and back to North Saudi, and now he's in Spring
And
Creek.
he's
or
found 3
something.
schools
Yeah,
of fish on
found- yeah.
ledges. He graphed for a little while too.
Well, it's relative to the lake now, like how you cover. Like we
He
all
can
agree
cover
on
it
that.
fast.
Yeah.
Like at St. Clair, you could just
Like I have
put
to
your trolling
like
motor
break
down
it
and
down.
just-
I'll pick an area and break
Yeah.
it down that
Right.
day. Pick another area and try to break it down. He just breaks the lake down.
I'm like John. I have a hard time making decisions, and
Yeah.
so I just like everything I think about. I just go after it.
No, I think
Except in the
I don't think you have a
tournament,
hard time making a decision because I think you
in
make
the-
your mind up pretty good
He
before
makes
you
it,
get there.
that's what I was gonna say. He makes it up before he gets there.
You've already got your mapped out in your brain. Like
Well,
I
I just
don't.
I eliminate more in practice than I think that I'm going to fit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I try to branch out a little bit in practice. It's always hard for me because I've always had this conservative state of mind, but I don't win tournaments like this guy over here. Like I make championships, but I don't win tournaments. So
Right.
that's an exchange, right?
Yeah.
So I've always just been super conservative, and I do fish, very calculated from a conservative standpoint.
Yeah, but didn't you win a couple times when we went to Beaver?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
like 10 years ago, John. I hadn't won since then.
Oh, you won
I
a Beaver.
wasn't one at Beaver.
Yeah.
That was a
I
long
never
time
won at
ago.
Beaver, but I
Yeah,
came
close,
close several
yeah.
times. Yeah,
I got like,
I want to go
Three
back to
top
Beaver.
five.
Speaking of winning here all the time.
Yeah,
oh, this is it.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
He's actually, listen to this. He's actually,
I don't even know how many times.
He's
it
actually
is.
rented this house several times, and he's won twice out of it.
I feel like I've stayed here, or somehow I was here before.
I think you might have stayed here with us for a little bit.
He probably won.
because I pulled up and
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember this
Looks
place.
really
Right.
familiar.
Yeah.
I
Where
forgot,
did you park at?
I've stayed
I
here
think in the
one time.
road. Same
I'm just
place
trying to get some ideas.
You know, when I won here though, it was in June. That spawn, it was always related to some spawning stuff. But one time I caught them all smallmouth. Another time it was all largemouth, and another time it was a mixed bag.
Yeah.
You won with all largemouth?
All largemouth. I did.
Three
I
times.
think I might have weighed in one smallmouth
That-
in the whole event.
That was
Dang.
the cranking one, right?
Yep, that was
Oh.
a Missisquoi.
Yeah.
That
I
was
was
a
on
cr-
my parents' couch watching that one.
Crank.
Is it Missisquoi or Missisquoi?
Missisquoi.
Okay, because the way it's
Yeah,
spelled sounds
right.
like Missisquoi. But I hear everybody say Missisquoi.
I didn't.
And,
When I,
Missisquoi.
and his dad won here, didn't he?
he did, and I don't know where he won it. I mean, I know he won it up in Missisquoi or Missisquoi, whatever you call it.
I've watched
but
it. You
but
can
I don't know.
Watch it, yeah.
That
We
was old
watched it.
footage of the High Lake, and which might be the deal here.
Flipping a jig
flipping
or
the
something
reeds.
like
In
Yeah.
Reeds with braided line. He was talking about the braided line being the big
he
deal.
was up the lake. I thought he was in tie
No,
when
no.
He made
Oh,
he finished
interesting.
top 5 in tie, or maybe in top 3 in
Yeah.
tie. This since I've been fishing.
Right.
Yeah.
The last time
Oh,
he fished
that's
here,
the one
he
I'm
did.
thinking about. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. He caught him on a milfoil line down south.
Yeah.
Last time we were here.
Yeah.
But he won the tournament all up on the north end fishing reeds, and he caught smallmouth on some of those shoals every day. So and that was back in '98. And he won. This is interesting. So when he won the tournament, it was in Burlington, and this was back in '98. Now in '98, this might have been one of the first bass tournaments ever on the lake. Like no one bass fished here on St. Clair. I mean on Champlain, and there was never any organized events much. So all the people at the weigh-in were there watching. None of them bass fished. They all trout fished and salmon fished and just pike fish for pike. So he wins a boat. Part of the Bassmaster deal, you win money in a boat. Right. So he won a 518. And usually when he would win a boat at one of these tournaments over the years, somebody would always buy it at the tournament because he would make a good deal. Like, all right, here's the deal.
It wasn't a certificate; it was the actual.
It was actual boat.
They had the boat there,
actual physical boat. So Dad asked around. Nobody even wanted to even entertain buying the bass boat. So he drove his home, left the boat here, worked out a place to leave it, and was trying to figure out what to do. And when he got home, I said, Dad, I'll go pick the boat up for you if I can use it for a week. If I can use it for a week, I'll go get it and bring it back. So he said, deal. So I came up here. I stayed in Burlington for a week. I was like 19, and we fished on Champlain.
Surely he told you where to go catch, son.
Well, he did a little bit back then. You didn't have like
Yeah,
GPS
you didn't have
and
dots
stuff.
or that.
I mean, it was like he was just
Look for the yellow house with the three
what's,
windows.
Yeah,
Honestly,
what's crazy?
honestly.
We've all
Yeah.
got to see. We've been doing it a long time. We've all got to see it. This lake used to be dominated by largemouth.
right.
Really. Yeah. But the smallmouth have gotten so big. What's caused that here? You hear
It's gotta
gobies.
be the gobies. It's
You
gotta
hear
be the
gobies
gobies.
are here now. So I mean,
Are there zebra mussels in this lake now?
it's really clear.
Well, the combination of the two. Then it was so funny. We were at an open
And
house.
forward facing. I mean, that's the. That
No, but
changes
it's
everything.
before that.
for sure.
Well, that's why the weights are just so.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the weight.
Right.
You got to think. You used to catch 15, 16 pounds a day. You could slide in there and get
17 and a half was good though.
Yeah.
I mean,
now
back then,
17 and a half a day won't
Will
get
barely
you paid.
get you paid if you do.
Yeah, you got to have 35 minimum to have a shot at
I agree
making
with
the cut.
John. We're targeting those fish that never got fooled with because you couldn't catch them the way you're catching them on forward facing sonar. You can't catch them.
Well, and it's a fact though that if you put, smallmouth or sight feeders, right? Like you put zebra
a lot
mussels in the
clearer.
lake, it clears the water up. Then you add gobies, which are just little balls of protein.
Yep.
Those two factors right there grow smallmouth to like
right.
big.
There's
sizes.
alewives too. I keep hearing people talk about how the alewife population in this lake's gotten
That's what
really
they're
strong
spitting
over
up
the years.
today in the
Really?
pond down the road. They're
Alewives.
spitting up big ones like that.
Huh? I didn't know they got that big.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're long, slender, like a silverish kind of.
Yeah.
Almost look kind of like a herring, kind of.
One
Yeah,
thing
wow.
we hadn't mentioned, and we got to give a shout out to him,
Who?
KVD.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh,
I watched a clip.
he made fishing what it is.
Yeah, and
Well, your dad helped on that.
I sent.
He-
There's
he-
a lot of pioneers like from that era.
sure.
He was so Bill, my dad, and Jimmy did what Kevin's did earlier.
Right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they did that same thing in their era, and then Kevin came along, picked it up where they were kind of leaving it off.
Yep.
He changed it
And
though.
yeah.
Yeah,
He had a
He rose
completely
the bar.
different approach.
Oh, he rose the bar.
He ra-
I
yeah,
mean,
he brought
his
it up.
his
He
his,
fishes different than anybody else out there.
his focus. I mean, he approached it. It was right when technology and patterns and equipment and all those things were all coming into the sport, right?
He brought speed into
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
Efficiency with speed.
Yeah.
And
It's crazy.
I remember as a kid, and I'm sure we've all done this where we're out there fishing as a kid and we pretend like we're somebody else for a little bit. And I remember thinking like, I'm gonna fish like KVD right now. I need to get in KVD mode and go real fast
Yeah.
and, be super efficient, and it would work. I would get in a groove like flipping and stuff and mats. The old adage, you're just sitting there just, plunking along. But if you speed that up a lot, get more flips,
Oh, yeah.
more punches, you're gonna catch more fish. Mm-hmm. I remember doing that over the years, but he did amazing. It's awesome what he did for the sport. So Kevin, awesome job, dude.
And he
Thank
always
you.
played the game. And I texted him earlier today. I wanted to let the dust settle before I texted him and
Yeah.
told him congrats. And I just said I appreciate how he's carried himself over the years, and he's always played the game with integrity.
Oh, for sure.
He's been an educator. He's been an innovator. I mean, he's done it all. He truly has done it all. And I just told him thank you for that. And and he he took him a while, but he sent me a text back, and
Really?
it was, like 4 or 5 sentences
That's
long,
good.
and I mean, he's just a good dude. Like he
Yeah.
really is a good guy,
Yeah.
and he I think he's going to do even more for the sport now that he's retired from tournament fishing, because that's what he wants to do, and he, he'll continue.
Yeah, it's gonna be
the
interesting to see.
conservation side of things is really
Right.
important to him.
Yeah. Be interesting to see what he's going to do, for sure. I fished with him when I was a co-angler at St. Clair, believe it or not.
I remember you
I
told me.
won
won,
Angler of the
didn't you?
Year. I won Angler of the
Oh,
Year
yeah.
that event, and he was on day 3. I had him in the boat.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I was so nervous,
And he would didn't it, the one where you'd see the fish, he'd tell you to throw in there?
So this was crazy, kind of cool. So I get Kevin, and he's in position to win the tournament. I think he's in second place, so he's obviously can blow the whole thing away. It's at his home lake.
And
So I don't wanna-
Sorry, but just for the viewers and,
Yeah.
and for my sake, is this pro on pro?
No,
then?
I was a co-angler in FLW.
Okay, this was an FLW
1999.
co-angler FFW.
1999.
Okay, got you.
Day 3 was the final day for the co-anglers. So I'm thinking to myself, I don't need to get in his way, but also I want to win Angler of the Year, so I do need to catch a few to get my points up so I can win. They gave away a boat for that deal. So I tell Kevin, look, I'm just going to stay out of your way, but hopefully I can catch a few. And he's like, he's real serious, and he's getting all this stuff ready, and he didn't say a whole lot. So, I'm just letting him do his thing. We pull up the first place, and we're fishing one of the channels right there where one of the firecrackers are, where the river comes out. And the pointer 78s had just came out. This was like the first year the Lucky Craft
The
came
little
out.
one, yeah.
The little one. And I had one. And he saw it on my rod, and he said, that's a good jerkbait right there. Yeah. How'd you know about that type of deal? Because it was kind of a secret thing.
Yeah.
And I said, I've caught a bunch on that. And he had 2 or 3 tied on. So we pull up the first place, and he's jerking that jerkbait real fast. And he'd hook one, and it'd be like a 2-pounder, and there'd be a 3 or 4-pounder behind it. And instead of him, like this is in a tournament, instead of him just pulling the fish in real fast and doing his thing, he would stop and tell me to throw my bait
That's awesome.
towards these fish that are behind his bait, and I'm like trying to catch one of them, and he's holding his in the water for a little bit longer to see if I could catch one and hook a fish. Like I thought that was crazy. It was awesome. And then he kept playing around. I'll tell you one thing I did that was so cool. He kept these big ones were chasing his jerkbait, wouldn't bite. Every time it was a small one, and he kept digging in his jerkbait box, and he dug around and he pulled one out that was painted with fingernail polish, with that pearlescent fingernail. They make one that's pearlescent now.
Yeah.
Clear pearlescent.
Yeah.
But they didn't at the time. He had one painted, and he put that on, and he'd rolled through about 10 different colors. When he put that one on, those big ones choked it, like gone. You couldn't even see. You had to get pliers to get it out.
Wow.
He kept messing around that whole day, probably for an hour, until he unlocked it, and then boom. That's all. And he even was going to give me one. He said, "It's the only one I have painted that color." They wouldn't have touched the other one.
Yeah.
So it was.
You don't carry any fingernail polish?
Not back then.
Lots of people do now, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
pretty. He was a master of like adaptation.
Yeah.
Being
my
able
God,
to,
yes.
to go through the subtle changes to make fish bite.
Yeah.
And if you watch that guy over the years, like what impressed me the most is I don't care if he was throwing a crankbait or a spinnerbait or jerkbait, obviously, but you think about the majority of people that go buy a spinnerbait off the shelf or a crankbait, they throw it out there and they do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Never with him.
I've never seen him throw a moving bait and do this.
Right. Right.
Like he's always like,
yeah. Right.
He's,
yeah.
he's
He
visualizing there's a fish behind it the whole time, and he's making him bite it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like he was a master at that.
He won the classic on a spinnerbait. Won a classic on a square bill. How many square bills they sell then? 1.5 KVD, 1.5. He won a classic on a lipless KVD, lipless. I mean, how many? You just think about what he's done with different baits and innovation. And
Has he ever won one flipping? You ever seen any footage of
Probably
KVD
won
flipping?
a tournament. Flipping.
I remember. I don't remember exactly where it was, but I remember being shocked that he was up on the bank
Pitching a
flipping
worm?
pitching a jig around some docks.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen him do that.
Yeah, I remember.
I've seen him
I remember
flip
being a kid
some.
and
He
seeing
could do
that.
anything, but
Yeah.
I've seen him flip.
I don't know if I've ever-
He almost won the classic at Wiley throwing a big worm in the South Fork River. I think he finished 3rd or 4th. The one talk one
Yeah.
the last like 10 seconds
Oh,
or something.
yeah.
Really?
But yeah, he almost not people knew where he was fishing, but I'm from there, so I knew like
Yeah.
where he was at, and he was throwing like a 10-inch ribbon tail Texas rig worm, and he was catching the fire out of him. And
Really?
I think he finished 3rd or 4th.
Yeah. Wow.
But and he pretty much, I think he caught a few cranking, but he
I
almost
think
threw
if
a
he
worm
had
the whole
his
classic.
preference and could do one thing, he'd probably won more tournaments deep cranking, but I bet he would throw a jerkbait over anything.
I would agree.
100%
Yeah,
of the
right.
time.
I would
If he
agree.
could
probably-
keep that one bait in his hand.
And a jerkbait, to be honest with you, and I've thrown a jerkbait more in the last 5 years than I ever did the first 15 that I fished tournaments. You can almost throw it year round. I mean,
Well, they do
Matt's
now.
kind of shown that to me over the
100%.
years. I mean,
no,
he
that
throws,
sort of came out with the forward-facing sonar.
Well, that's when it got
drop.
exposed.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Like you could catch now they're hard to catch, but you could catch a lot of like we caught them in May and June at home on a jerkbait over top brush for years, and like guys never caught on to that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like so. But to your point, there's small windows where it doesn't play, but almost 12 months out of the year,
Right.
there's a jerkbait bite somewhere
Yeah.
somehow.
It's
You
one-
might not be able to win that way, but you can catch fish.
It's definitely one of those lures that almost have to always be tied on.
Yeah.
Like every tournament. You know,
I
there's
agree.
always a chatterbait tied on. There's always a jerkbait tied on.
Yeah.
You know, type deal. So, well, we finally came up with a name for the podcast.
Which one
Did
did you
we?
go with?
We kind of did. I think we're going. Tell me what you think. Propwash.
I like it.
It's called
I was
Propwash.
wondering because
That's
somebody
not the
put this
reaction we
over
were
and it
hoping
says
for.
I
two
mean,
Scots and a hat.
I
Because
think
we
it's
blow it
good.
all out. We blow it all out.
That's I like it.
I like
You know,
that.
when you give it gas,
Yeah.
boom, blows it
Yeah.
all out.
I like that too. And then I got here and somebody had wrote on this board it says two Scots and a mat. I said that was
And John.
that?
And John.
that was one of the names.
And a John.
Two Scots and a Matt and a who
And a
wrote that
John.
on there?
And John.
Oh my gosh.
That doesn't look like my handwriting.
No.
No.
Yeah. No.
I like prop wash.
Yeah. Propwash is good.
Oh, that's the deal. Well, guys, thank y'all. That's a good little deal. I,
yeah.
I do apologize for not doing one at the last tournament. We all had all intentions to do it. We just didn't have the right setup there, and it was just a lot going on. But we are going to do. We're doing one today. We're going to do another one next week for the final
St.
event of the
Mark's
year,
River.
and then we'll keep these things rolling while the season kind of ends, and we'll figure out a way to do it
Yeah.
during hunting season and stuff. And
John, if you win this week, you have to be on the podcast next week. Deal?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty
I
easy
haven't
deal, right?
made a top 10 here.
I hadn't either.
You haven't?
No.
He's the luckiest I've ever seen.
No,
There are many
I just-
times I've
I
heard
haven't.
stories
I mean-
of John saying, like, and I remember seeing him do it, like running down the lake here, running down the lake and just look over on the bank or just stop the boat and just randomly cast a wacky worm like a mile from the boat ramp and catch a 4-pounder.
Oh yeah, the one year I only had like 2 fish, 3
Yeah.
fish.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
this the highest you've ever seen the water anytime you've been here, or have you seen it higher?
No, I fished here the year Denny Brower won,
Really?
and it was a lot higher.
When was that? What was that?
2006. I fished that the week after he did.
Yeah.
I fished an open.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. I
But
got
he-
you.
Well, it had to be like 99.
No, it was like 2006 or.
No, I'm
8.
saying the level
the-
had to be
Oh,
99.
It's
'Cause it's
98.
98.
I know the rock-
something.
the
98
rocks.
flat right now
The
98
rocks
flat,
were
okay.
almost underwater.
at like Mallett's Bay.
Takeoff.
Oh, at takeoff.
Really?
You know, the last couple times we've been here, it just wasn't full. It was just
Yeah.
low, like
Yeah,
a
it
little
was
low.
really
So it's
low.
a big swing for.
This the highest it's
Well-
been since probably that event.
Right. That's what I was thinking. The group of fish we have now might not ever even seen the water in the.
That's
weeds.
right.
Oh yeah,
You guys, that's correct.
They-
Yeah.
They might be-
You're like, oh my god!
there's definitely going to be some things that are going to evolve throughout the week because of that high water.
I need to get my big easies out.
They're yet
I
they're
know,
yet
I'm
to be
telling
determined, but it's gonna be.
I don't even know if I
Interesting.
brought them. I do have one pack.
Yeah.
I did find in my boat today.
They'll actually probably be caught deeper than they've ever been caught.
Yeah.
They probably will.
Because they just stay right where they were
Yeah,
at.
yeah. That's what today. The bank of the pond I was fishing. The bank was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I threw up there all day. I caught nothing.
Yeah, that's
And
about
then
right.
my
They should
buddy
stay where
was
they
out in
always
the middle.
are.
You threw it at the bank?
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
No.
Terrible.
Do you have forward facing sonar?
I have 2 transducers in my truck. I look at them every day, and
In his truck.
and I just with that other unit that was going to be my forward facing unit.
Oh,
And,
wait a minute now. Do you need now? You make
No, I'm out. I know I'm good.
Oh,
I'm not
you
going to
weren't-
use
you
it
weren't
this
gonna
week
use
either. But that helped me. I was like, oh, someone needs it. No, great. But
Oh,
yeah.
see, I just took that hard
You
decision
did.
to make.
I know.
Like,
Yeah.
I took it out of
Yeah,
your
you
game.
did. As soon
You
as I
can talk to me
contemplated-
later.
Like,
Yeah, I'm
should I
like-
rig it up?
Yeah.
Should I,
That's
should I put it
awesome.
on tonight?
every day. That's like every day. That's what I think. And I go
That's
fishing
hilarious.
with people that are good with it. And
Have
use
you
it.
used it much?
And I watched a lot of other people use it, and it's I just.
You just look away. You don't
I
want to
just,
look.
I feel like once you use it, you are like you have to use it.
Yeah.
You can't go without it
Right.
Yeah.
once you use it. There's no going
It's
away
like
from
bass
it.
cocaine.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not one. I just.
I remember earlier in the year we had a little discussion. Somebody had brought up about doing away with them. He said he'd quit.
yeah, a whole bunch of people would.
There would be a lot of people. There would be a lot of people in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's
He's won 9 tournaments and none of them were forward facing.
there's a midway point. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no. Speaking of that, Cumberland.
That was forward facing.
Yeah, that was
He's
before.
1-1
He
now.
just didn't
That
tell
was before
nobody.
everybody
Yeah.
else
Yeah, he
had it.
didn't tell nobody that whole
Yeah.
time.
I knew.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
but
right.
I didn't have one.
That's right. That's right. Because
like, "I can
that's
see
one of
him."
the first ones I remember.
Yeah.
And just I watched you do it, and I was like, oh my gosh, you can see him out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Dude,
was a
I-
special week, man. That
I've
was
never
so crazy.
felt so helpless in my life.
Yeah.
Like, because I had got on that little bite in practice and, caught some really big ones. Had some bad luck in the tournament. Just caught a bunch of 17 3/4 inch smallmouth, you
Right.
know. And I think I got a check, but just barely or something. He won the tournament. But when he was like doing what I was doing, if I could have seen him,
Yeah.
like, and when he told me that, I'm like, might as well just go to the house.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to win this tournament 100. Like, I felt I had a really good practice.
Right.
Like, and very rarely do I have a practice where it's like, man, I got a shot at doing really good. You know,
He was crushing it.
and then he's like, oh, well, I can see him, and I'm like, oh, well, damn.
I was telling Matt, I was like, I can not
mean-
only see him, but there's 7 in that tree. And there's 5 in the other tree. And then the other 3 trees I looked at, there's 0. So I don't fool with those trees ever again. Like, I'm going to hit those trees. And he's like,
I got to fish
"What?"
all of them.
Wow.
That was
Yeah,
neat.
I mean, you like that was when you talk about getting slightly ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
That
and
was ahead
that
of
was
the curve.
definitely an advantage.
I mean, that's like the first, Paul Elias picking up the A rig at Gunnersville
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
It's like Brian Thrift winning all those co-angler events with a bladed jig,
Yeah.
when nobody else had it, and that was, that was the definition of getting slightly ahead of the game, and
But didn't use it at Watchita Cup.
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't have anything there. Yeah, it
Can
was
you
just-
imagine if you had it?
But what was interesting, what I did, which is not like Panoptics, but in a way, I'll claim this. I was the first guy that put a GPS in bass tournaments, put a GPS on the front of the boat as well as at the console. Because when I first started fishing, like Garmin and these companies, nobody put one at the front. There was just a regular transducer unit at the front, and then you had a dual unit in the back.
Right.
And I was on Okeechobee, and I was fishing those big, massive grass flats out in front of Dice's Ditch, and there was holes all over the place, and there would be beds in certain holes. Certain holes didn't have beds, and some holes did. So every time I'd be drifting along and get a bite or look down and then see a bed, I'd walk back to my console and hit the waypoint
be
and
20
go back
foot
to the
off.
front to the boat and keep fishing. I'd do that over and over and over again. And then when in the tournament, I'd go back there and look at my screen and zoom to the dot and go, okay, I'm 83 feet away. And I'd walk back to the front and think about, what's about 50 feet I went? And then I'd be looking, and then I'd go back to the back again. So I called Garmin. I'm like, send me another unit. And they're like, for what? I said, I want to put one on the front of my boat. And they're like, nobody's doing that. I said, just trust me. So I put one on the front of my boat.
That's pretty cool.
And so I had them on the front. So then I never had to go to the back. I'd waypoint a bed or a hole or where I got bit or a brush pile.
Right.
And I could stand on the front of my boat, and I would take my cursor and go up to the dot and say 97 feet away. And I'd line my boat up right, and I'd get really good at it. And I could make a cast far
on.
away and hit that brush pile, just like you do with Panoptics, but I was just looking at the dot on my screen or a fish on the bed.
Yeah.
Same way, blind fishing. I did it here at Champlain. When I won Champlain the first time with smallmouth, I was catching most of those fish, not looking at them.
Wow.
The first 5 that I caught that morning, which were most of my weight in, I didn't see a single one. I was 50 feet away, positioned my boat, and made that cast, caught the fish.
Right on it.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like Panoptics, but before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
that was the internal antenna units.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. It was. So, well, we better wrap this thing up, dude. We got to get to bed.
Yeah.
Get up
Man.
at 4:30 in the morning. Start this whole process over again.
I'm shooting for 7.
Are you?
Yeah.
There you go.
You've had a
Way
long
past
week.
my bedtime.
I've been out of fishing
7?
mode. I'm in college dad mode right now, as you can tell.
Yeah.
I wore this just to make him proud.
Yeah.
He liked it too. I
Yeah.
walked in, he goes, "Heck yeah,
Yeah.
roll tide."
Yeah.
So, did you see how embarrassed Hillary? Over the
Oh
drive?
gosh.
Yeah. Oh,
On it, yeah. Riding out. She's riding right. Y'all were right by Denny Chimes.
Was I?
Yeah, y'all were going right down through the
I don't
middle
know
of the
what they're talking
university.
about again.
They're going through the middle of the university, and
Okay.
Scott's got
Say
the window
that.
down.
Okay.
Scott's got the window down, yelling at people walking down the street. Roll tide, guys! Roll tide! Hillary's like, "Shut up, Dad! Quit!
Is she
I
in the?
know.
She's in the truck with him.
Stop!" Oh yeah, she's driving.
I'm trying to find
Oh.
it here. Gosh, I don't know where if I have
Stop
it.
it, Dad!
It was so funny.
Did anybody respond?
No,
Or did they just
they're all
ignore
looking
you?
at me like I was.
Wow, no one was
embarrassed.
yelling.
Too cool for school kids. Yeah,
They must have been freshmen.
they were intimidated.
It wasn't even crowded, but she's getting to learn around.
We're here, University of Alabama. We're moving in, and let's get a chip on how to
Oh, the lisp got it for me.
Yeah.
Roll Tide! Oh my God, bro. What's wrong with you?
You know what they're in there? You know what them people were saying? He must be a Sooner fan.
Oh,
That's right. That's right. All right. Let's shut her down. Appreciate y'all watching, guys. Do us a favor, drop some comments below. And thanks for all the support. And we've got tournament videos coming, more tournament videos coming, and all that good stuff. And
Appreciate
we're
John being on the show.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good
Maybe
night.
next week.
That is it.